No one expected such an event. We pointed our best telescopes to the very edge of the observable universe. We expected to see a completely clear and predictable physical picture there. But the data we obtained completely shattered all our established scientific theories. Our cosmological model had been built up over decades of persistent collaborative work. Scientists were confident in their deep understanding of the processes at the edge of light. We considered the horizon of the observable universe to be simply a natural optical limit. Beyond it, there was supposed to be an infinite continuation of the calm cosmos we were accustomed to. According to all textbooks, this distant region should be stable. We expected to see only ancient galaxies and relic radiation there. There could be no large-scale surprises or inexplicable structures there. The scientific community sincerely believed in the homogeneity and predictability of expanding space. The instruments were calibrated to search for standard markers of the early universe. Astrophysicists knew exactly which frequencies and spectra to record. First and foremost, we relied on the cosmic microwave background and the light from the most ancient galaxies. This data was supposed to confirm the accuracy of our understanding of the cosmos. We expected to see a perfectly predictable picture of cooling space. Nothing foreshadowed the coming upheavals. We sought confirmation of our brilliant equations and mathematical models. For years, scientists had been building a standard cosmological model to describe the evolution of matter. Every new discovery fit perfectly into the pre-established framework. Step by step, we confidently reconstructed the chronology of events following the Big Bang. All previous observations only reinforced this reassuring confidence in our knowledge. The universe seemed to us like a vast but perfectly understandable mechanism. We thought that the laws of physics worked just as flawlessly there. Einstein's theory of relativity reliably described the motion of every celestial body. Light from the very first stars was supposed to obediently reach our telescopes over billions of years. No one even doubted the soundness of established scientific concepts. We simply sat and calmly awaited the next triumph of the human mind. But deep space presented us with an extremely unpleasant and frightening surprise. What we discovered does not fit into any known concept. At the very edge of the visible world, something completely unimaginable is happening. The new discoveries proved too vast and disruptive for our familiar picture of the world. They directly challenge everything we knew about the formation of space. The data from the telescopes looked like some kind of sinister and incomprehensible joke. At first, the researchers simply couldn't believe their own eyes. The readings from the ultra-sensitive instruments were immediately dismissed as a system error. Teams of scientists concluded that there had been a glitch in the matrix software. Engineers began urgently checking and calibrating all orbital observatories. Months were spent on detailed re-diagnosis of the most complex sensors and cooling systems. But the equipment worked absolutely flawlessly, without the slightest complaint. The telescopes stubbornly continued to transmit this impossible image to Earth. Signals from deep space were confirmed by independent research groups around the world. At the edge of the observable universe, gigantic structures made of unknown matter were discovered. These formations exceed any conceivable theoretical limits in size. They stretch for billions of light years, forming a colossal cosmic web. Ordinary visible matter simply would not be enough to create such giants. Even stranger was the behavior of these incredible clusters we observed. They were moving in directions that completely contradict the laws of gravity. Huge masses are flying toward a point far beyond the horizon of our vision. This process appears to be a gross violation of the basic principles of reality. Such anomalous motion cannot be explained by the gravitational pull of neighboring galaxies known to us. Astrophysicists have called this effect a dark flow, but that is merely a fancy term. There should be no such colossal and organized clusters of energy there. According to our precise calculations, At the dawn of time, matter was distributed quite uniformly. The expansion of space should have scattered them in different directions long ago. Dark energy should have stretched these structures and completely dissipated their density. Yet they exist and continue their strange, eerily purposeful motion. An invisible force seems to be pulling them beyond the limits of our current understanding. Our neat picture of the world has suffered its first serious and irreparable crack. The fundamental foundations of physics have proved powerless in the face of the scale of this newly discovered phenomenon. Scientists around the world must acknowledge that the universe is far more complex. Perhaps we are observing the gravitational influence of entirely different worlds, hidden from us. Standard cosmological models can no longer guarantee us a peaceful study of the stars. This terrifying discovery forces us to rethink the entire history of the birth and evolution of the cosmos. We have encountered a phenomenon that simply defies human logic. This horizon turned out to be far from a peaceful fading of ancient light. Beyond billions of light years lies an incredibly active and unpredictable environment. It looks like a zone where physics itself begins to behave strangely. The laws of thermodynamics and gravity there seem to be turned inside out and cease to function. And this is only the beginning of our great cosmic disappointment. We have always considered the particle horizon to be simply an insurmountable optical barrier. Scientists thought that beyond it lay exactly the same ordinary void. Light from there simply hadn't had time to reach our planet over billions of years. For a long time, this idea served as a reliable foundation for all observational astronomy. No one expected any surprises from the dark and infinitely distant regions of space. It seemed like a logical and perfectly safe explanation for our ignorance. Generations of astronomers calmly explored the part of the universe accessible to us. Radio telescopes methodically scanned the sky section by section. It was believed that the expansion of the universe proceeded uniformly in all directions without any significant deviations. The observable universe appeared surprisingly uniform and predictable. But new data reveal a completely different, frightening reality. At the very edge of the observable universe, a gigantic warping of all space has been detected. Entire clusters of galaxies are being pulled towards something massive beyond our sight. This invisible force possesses truly unimaginable and terrifying power. We are talking about the coordinated movement of hundreds of millions of star systems simultaneously. They are flying in a dense stream toward the constellations of Centaurus and Vela. Such a massive displacement cannot be attributed to measurement errors. According to all the rules of astrophysics, objects of such mass cannot exist there. Matter in the universe must be distributed relatively uniformly in all directions. This is a fundamental principle of modern cosmology, confirmed by decades of research. No supermassive centers of gravity can simply exist at the boundary. Yet thousands of galaxies are flying toward it at incredibly high speeds. The speed of this strange motion reaches millions of kilometers per hour. This is much faster than can be explained by the ordinary expansion of space itself. Star clusters are hurtling through the void, as if pulled by a colossal magnet. Such kinetic energy requires the presence of an unprecedented source of gravity. But there is nothing remarkable on the maps of cosmic microwave background radiation in that region. This discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community worldwide. Astrophysicists rushed to recheck data from space probes and orbital telescopes. Scientists attempted to explain this phenomenon with ordinary clusters of dark matter. It was assumed that we simply cannot see a giant hidden cloud of mass. But calculations quickly showed the complete untenability of this comforting theory. Even all the dark matter in the universe would not be enough to create such a gravitational pull. It is as if something fundamentally different lies beyond the edge of our world. This is not simply a continuation of our cosmos with similar bright stars. Scientists have cautiously begun to speak of the possible influence of neighboring universes on our reality. The concept of the multiverse has suddenly received a frightening practical confirmation. It is a gigantic anomaly that distorts the very fabric of space and time. The gravity of this invisible object freely penetrates the particle horizon. It is slowly but surely pulling our neighboring galaxies into itself. It is as if we are standing on the shore of the ocean and seeing a huge whirlpool in the distance. Stars and planets are being swept away, obeying an alien and completely unknown will. The scale of this cosmic current astounds even the most skeptical physicists. We cannot see the very bottom of this colossal cosmic funnel. A signal from there is simply physically incapable of reaching observers on Earth. But we can clearly see how the water inexorably flows beyond the event horizon. The motion of galaxies directly reveals the presence of an invisible cosmic monster. And this picture evokes a primal terror of the unknown. Every new observation only confirms researchers' worst fears. Precise measurements of X-ray radiation have ruled out any systematic error in the calculations. This stream of galaxies, dubbed the dark stream, does not weaken over time. On the contrary, its speed and scale continue to grow rapidly and alarmingly. Something beyond our understanding is voraciously devouring visible matter. Initially, physicists blamed the Great Attractor, a massive gravitational anomaly, for this. But it turned out that the Great Attractor itself is also moving in this unknown direction. The center of attraction lies much farther away, in a zone beyond the reach of light. Our entire local supercluster of galaxies is participating in this grand migration. We are flying into the darkness without the slightest understanding of the ultimate destination of our journey. We cannot peer beyond this barrier to see the true culprit. Our telescopes are limited by the strict speed of light and the lifespan of the universe. Information from beyond the event horizon is fundamentally inaccessible to our study. We are in the position of a blind man who senses a massive train approaching. We feel the vibration, but we cannot see the looming threat at all. Our leading physicists admit their complete helplessness in the face of the facts. No modern formula is capable of describing what is happening at the edge of the abyss. Classical cosmology is crumbling in the face of this irrefutable evidence. We have hit a brick wall of our own technological ignorance. Nature has clearly shown us our humble place in this vast game. We used to naively consider ourselves the crown of creation in a comprehensible world. Now, humanity is forced to realize its total defenselessness in the face of the mysteries of the cosmos. All the physics we know operates only within the narrow confines of our visible sandbox. Beyond its limits, entirely different, alien and powerful laws reign. And these laws have already begun to actively interfere with our part of the universe. The boundary of the universe turned out to be more than just a conventional line on an astronomical map. It has become a zone of a cataclysm that is both monumental and utterly incomprehensible to us. The observable cosmos is gradually losing its matter, irrevocably surrendering it to the darkness. We have become witnesses to a process that is inexorably reshaping the architecture of space. And the most terrifying thing is that this process is not unique. At first, we sincerely hoped that this was simply a single, localized anomaly. Astronomers thought we had simply been unlucky with one specific sector of the sky. It seemed logical to attribute the strange data to a random cluster of supermassive objects. Scientists turned the lenses of their orbital telescopes in the exact opposite direction. The researchers decided to examine a region of space where there were not supposed to be any disturbances. Everyone expected to see the familiar calm relic background there. But reality dealt us yet another crushing blow. At the opposite end of the observable universe, exactly the same problem was discovered. There, too, there is a colossal, directed movement of enormous galactic masses. Scientists recorded a powerful stream of star systems flying into deep space, and it, too, is directed beyond the limits of our visible and comprehensible zone. The speed of this flight of matter defied any logical explanation. This finally dashed our hopes of a simple systematic error. An error that repeats itself twice already becomes a frightening pattern. Equipment from different countries simultaneously showed the same impossible picture. We see symmetrical disruptions of our model at opposite ends of the cosmos. The universe seems to be being pulled apart in opposite directions by invisible giants. Classical physics simply burst at the seams in the face of such incredible news. Data from space observatories confirmed the boldest and most frightening conjectures. The cosmic microwave background radiation turned out to be uneven and exhibited strange temperature fluctuations. The light from the Big Bang brought us information about powerful gravitational anomalies. These distortions clearly pointed to the presence of colossal masses beyond the limits of visibility. Our cozy and familiar cosmos turned out to be only a part of something much larger. The scientific world held its breath in anticipation of further confirmation of this incredible theory. The scale of this phenomenon simply defies ordinary human comprehension. We are talking about structures billions of light-years in size. Vast stellar rivers flow through space in defiance of all known laws. They form a complex network of currents that violate the fundamental principle of isotropy in the cosmos. The ideal symmetry of matter distribution turned out to be a beautiful but outdated myth. Our world turned out to be far from as homogeneous as we were always taught. Further scanning of the sky yielded even more shocking observational results. It turned out that these dark streams exist in virtually every direction. Telescopes recorded more and more groups of galaxies participating in this exodus. The edge of our observable universe is literally teeming with inexplicable activity. Gravitational waves of colossal power are constantly being generated there. Beyond the reach of light, events of an incredible and terrifying scale are unfolding. Some researchers have suggested the influence of so-called dark energy, but even its properties were insufficient to explain such powerful directed flows. Matter is not simply scattering in different directions due to the general expansion of space. It is purposefully rushing toward specific points of attraction beyond the particle horizon. It is like water obediently flowing into giant cosmic funnels. Astrophysicists realized they were dealing with an entirely new type of interaction. It is as if we are trapped inside a tiny glass ball filled with artificial snow. And from the outside, someone huge and invisible is constantly shaking our fragile reality. External forces are ruthlessly interfering with the internal processes of our cozy cosmos. Gravity from other dimensions is penetrating our world and dragging galaxies along with it. Our universe is no longer a closed and self-sufficient system. We have found ourselves completely dependent on a will that is foreign and unknown to us. The multiverse theory has suddenly become the most discussed topic in scientific circles. Physicists have begun to seriously consider the possibility of our world colliding with others. Perhaps these streams of matter are traces of ancient cosmic catastrophes. Neighboring universes may possess entirely different masses and laws of nature. Their gravity is capable of breaking through the barriers between realities and influencing us. This frightening discovery turns the philosophy of science upside down. All these discoveries have forced scientists to rethink the very foundations of modern cosmology. If the boundary of our world is subject to such powerful external influences, then we are vulnerable. The standard model of star and planet formation requires serious revisions. We can no longer make predictions based solely on internal factors. No one knows what other surprises lie beyond the horizon of visible light. External uncertainty dictates its own harsh rules over our entire reality. Astrophysicists are trying to create new computer simulations that account for these factors. The planet's brightest minds are writing complex algorithms to describe the dark flow. But supercomputers simply throw errors when attempting to process such inputs. Artificial intelligence cannot find logic in these chaotic movements. Mathematics breaks down when forces of an unknown and alien nature are introduced into it. We have lost our primary tool for understanding the world, our logical foundation. Every day, observatories collect terabytes of new information about the motion of galaxies. Radio telescopes detect the slightest shifts in the spectra of distant quasars. But this vast volume of data does not bring us the peace of mind and understanding we seek. Every new discovery only multiplies the number of unsolvable questions. Scientists lack the fundamental theories to describe this new picture of the world. It is as if we are trying to read a book in a language completely foreign to us. Every day there is more and more data, yet it makes less and less sense. The edge of the universe is no longer a place where space simply ends peacefully. Now it is a terrifying frontier, concealing threats and phenomena unknown to us. It has become a line of active contact with something utterly alien and unknowable. The power of this external force makes even the most convinced skeptics tremble. And this alien entity clearly surpasses us in scale and hidden power. For many years, we have searched for fellow sentient beings within our galaxy. And now we have encountered a force before which any civilization pales. This anomaly controls the movement of entire superclusters, as if they were mere grains of sand. Against this backdrop, our Sun and Earth seem like utterly insignificant specks of dust. The realization of our own fragility is changing people's attitudes toward the exploration of space. The familiar picture of the starry sky conceals a terrifying and menacing mystery. We stand on the threshold of the greatest crisis in the history of all human science. Old astronomy textbooks can safely be consigned to the historical archives. We must rediscover the world and learn to live in harsh new realities. Our knowledge has turned out to be nothing more than a tiny island in a raging ocean of utter chaos. Uncertainty is slowly tightening its grip around our observable sector, and this chaos is gradually beginning to encroach upon our own shores. The problem has rapidly ceased to be the exclusive prerogative of the farthest reaches of the universe. Scientists have begun to carefully analyze the motion of galaxies much closer to home. Large-scale sky mapping projects have revealed a frightening picture in our immediate vicinity. It turned out that the influence of these mysterious forces extends deep into our own space. Local star clusters are also behaving contrary to the predictions of classical physics. The anomaly is gradually engulfing the entire starry sky visible to us. Astrophysicists have noticed strange deviations in the velocities of neighboring galaxies. They are moving not only due to the general expansion of space itself. There are enormous hidden currents that carry entire stellar islands in a specific direction. These massive streams of matter defy the usual distribution of mass in our sector. It seems as though our corner of the cosmos is under the influence of an invisible gravitational magnet. And this magnet is pulling us toward something truly colossal. We have discovered vast voids where matter should not exist at all. A striking example is the colossal Boötes void, spanning hundreds of millions of light years. These gigantic voids have a geometric shape that is too regular and unnatural. Inside them, there are practically no galaxies or even clusters of interstellar gas. They look as if someone had carefully cut out pieces from the fabric of the universe. Around these voids, matter accumulates into dense and taut filaments. This complex structure has been named the cosmic web. Thin filaments of dark matter and galaxies weave around these eerie, empty spaces. At the nodes of this incredible network, the brightest and hottest superclusters of stars flare up. However, the scale and density of these formations challenge our current models. Gravitational forces within these filaments cause galaxies to collide much more frequently than expected. We observe a fierce struggle for survival even on a macroscopic scale. Even the distribution of the cosmic microwave background radiation turned out to be less ideal than previously thought. Spacecraft have compiled an extremely precise thermal map of the earliest light in the universe. A massive cold anomaly has been found within it, one that cannot be explained by chance. We are talking about the famous relic cold spot in the constellation Eridanus. This region is so cold that it violates all the laws of cosmic thermodynamics. It is like a gaping, icy wound on the body of our expanding universe. Further analysis of this ancient radiation revealed yet another inexplicable oddity. Scientists discovered a strange alignment of temperature fluctuations across the entire sky. This eerie line has been unofficially dubbed the axis of evil in astrophysics. According to the laws of physics, such large-scale structural axes simply cannot exist. Our world should be absolutely identical in all directions, with no distinct centers. But this axis directly points to some fundamental asymmetry in all of existence. Some physicists suggest that this is the point of collision between our universe and another. The cold spot may be a bruise from such an unimaginable cosmic impact. It is the point of contact between two gigantic bubbles in a seething multiverse. If this is the case, then the boundaries of our world are constantly subjected to powerful impacts from outside. Such forces inevitably deform space itself and distort the flow of time. Our cosmos is merely a fragile membrane in the infinite space of other realities. This terrifying theory makes us mere accidental witnesses to a grand cosmic catastrophe. We are not seeing a smooth expansion, but a brutal process of deformation under external pressure. Neighboring worlds may possess entirely different physical constants and properties of matter. Alien laws of physics could break through this weakened boundary at any moment. No one can guarantee that our atoms will be able to exist under the new conditions. And we have not the slightest idea what those conditions will turn out to be. The mysterious dark energy has also begun to deliver unpleasant and alarming surprises. We have always considered its density to be constant throughout the history of the universe. But recent measurements of quasars suggest that it may vary in strength. Its repulsive force is intensifying in some regions and weakening in others. This means that space could tear apart much sooner than predicted. The cosmos is losing its uniformity and turning into a seething cauldron with unpredictable behavior. This widespread violation of established rules is causing real panic among researchers. What was once considered unshakable constants is beginning to change chaotically. The Hubble tension problem has become the main nightmare for modern theorists. The rate of the universe's expansion turns out to vary across different regions of the night sky. Measurements based on supernovae radically diverge from data on the cosmic microwave background. The cosmos is losing its familiar stability and predictability right before our eyes. This is not a local glitch that can simply be ignored or chalked up to error. It is a fundamental dismantling of everything we have sincerely believed in for centuries. The basic principle of astronomy states that Earth does not occupy any special place. But new anomalies are casting doubt on this foundation of the scientific worldview. We see reality cracking at the seams at every level of observation available to us. Invisible cracks are creeping from the very edge of the universe toward its historical center. Scientists are forced to seek out new and sometimes outlandish ways to salvage old theories. Some propose rewriting the laws of gravity on vast cosmic scales. Others introduce new invisible fields and particles with incredible properties into the equations. But all these mathematical tricks are like trying to patch giant holes with a band-aid. The ship of standard cosmology is slowly and inevitably sinking under the weight of the facts. We need a completely new physics to describe this distorted world. We are forced to admit that our science has studied only a small and very calm part of the picture. For a long time, we were fortunate to develop in a relatively safe cosmic incubator. We based our conclusions on the local and temporary lull in our sector. The Milky Way turned out to be merely a quiet harbor in the face of an approaching storm. But now this illusory safety is rapidly and irrevocably dissolving into time. A great cosmic storm is already raging all around us, and we have only just begun to notice it. Enormous masses of energy move according to laws we are not even capable of understanding. Star systems burn out and are born in the crucible of processes completely unknown to us. We observe this grand process with a sense of growing existential dread. Our place in this gigantic structure is becoming frighteningly insignificant and fragile. The universe no longer seems to us a cozy and understandable home for humanity. It has turned into an environment that is completely alien and extremely hostile to us. Each new generation of telescopes only exacerbates this overwhelming sense of helplessness. The launch of the latest orbital observatories has brought us photographs of unimaginable ancient galaxies. Instead of the expected simple structures, the instruments detected massive objects at the dawn of time. The more closely we examine the cosmos, the more terrifying and incomprehensible it becomes. The abyss seems to stare back at us through the hypersensitive lenses of our own instruments. We no longer seek answers there. We shudder at the emergence of new questions. If our models fail so catastrophically at the edge of the universe, they are incorrect everywhere. The fundamental laws of physics must be the same at every point in observable space. This is the fundamental rule that has allowed us to study the cosmos from Earth's surface at all. Local rules of the game simply cannot exist in nature on such global scales. Otherwise, all our measurements of distance and mass lose any practical meaning. An error in long-range calculations signifies a critical failure in the very foundation of our science. For many decades, astronomy relied on the so-called cosmological principle. It states that on large scales, the universe is homogeneous and isotropic. That is, no matter where we look, the picture should be roughly the same. But recent data on giant structures and dark flows are shattering this convenient postulate. It turns out that the universe may have distinct directions and hidden centers of mass. Our cozy symmetry has shattered against the harsh and incomprehensible reality. We have always considered the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics to be the crowning achievements of human genius. These pillars of science seem to us to be absolutely monolithic and unshakable truths of the universe. Albert Einstein gave us an astonishingly precise tool for describing gravity and the motion of planets. All our technologies and our current understanding of reality are based on them. No serious scientist dared even to question these great works. But now we see these pillars crumbling to dust under the pressure of new facts. The problem is compounded by the fact that our two main physical theories are in direct contradiction with each other. Quantum mechanics perfectly describes the microcosm, while general relativity deals with macroscopic objects. However, when attempting to combine them to describe black holes or the Big Bang, the equations yield infinities. For decades, physicists have struggled to create a unified theory of quantum gravity without visible success. And now these calculations have ceased to work even at the macroscopic cosmic level. we stand before a completely shattered edifice of theoretical physics. It turns out that gravity behaves completely differently over extremely large cosmic distances. We observe effects that require the introduction of unknown and frightening variables. Galaxies rotate so fast that they would have to fly apart without additional invisible mass. Scientists have come up with dark matter and dark energy simply as mathematical stopgaps. No one has ever seen these substances or been able to detect them in a laboratory. But these stopgaps can no longer hide the gaping hole in our understanding. Some desperate astrophysicists are attempting to completely rewrite Newton's law of universal gravitation. Radical hypotheses of modified Newtonian dynamics have emerged to explain anomalies without dark matter. These theories suggest that over colossal distances, the force of gravity simply ceases to decrease in the usual way. But every such correction creates even more logical dead ends in other areas of astronomy. One equation is fixed, and a dozen neighboring ones instantly cease to match observations. It's as if we're trying to repair a complex clockwork mechanism with a heavy blacksmith's hammer. If the boundary doesn't work the way we thought, then we know absolutely nothing. All of our physics is merely a special case, applicable only on minuscule scales. Our planet is located in a very quiet and specific corner of a vast galactic empire. We are like bacteria in a petri dish, trying to describe the workings of a massive particle collider. The limitations of our senses are playing a very cruel and vicious joke on us. Our scientific ambitions have turned out to be completely out of proportion to the true complexity of this world. We can no longer trust our own instruments and mathematical calculations. What we call emptiness may turn out to be a dense medium of incomprehensible particles. The intergalactic vacuum harbors colossal reserves of hidden and invisible energy. What we consider light may be nothing more than a ripple on the surface of a monstrous ocean. The true nature of electromagnetic radiation on such scales may turn out to be entirely different. We have completely lost our footing in our endless quest for knowledge. The concept of emptiness has definitively lost its original and simple meaning in the eyes of researchers. Quantum physics asserts that the vacuum is constantly teeming with invisible virtual particles. They are born out of nowhere and vanish instantly, violating the classical law of conservation of energy. In the vast expanses of space, this constant bubbling may create that very frightening dark flow. Perhaps we are observing not the movement of matter, but grandiose fluctuations in the very fabric of reality. These processes unfold beyond the limits of our understanding of the basic logic of things. This crisis undermines the very essence of the scientific method and faith in the human mind. If the laws are not constant, then any physical experiment loses its universal meaning. Tomorrow, fundamental constants may change due to yet another unknown cosmic current. We can no longer extrapolate the knowledge gained on Earth to the entire surrounding cosmos. Trust in centuries of painstaking academic work is literally melting away before our eyes. Our science has found itself locked in a cramped cage of local and temporary coincidences. Theoretical physicists are in a state of profound confusion and professional shock. The old equations no longer work, and there is simply no basis for creating new ones. Professors at the world's top universities are throwing up their hands in the face of the strange readings from telescopes. We cannot write a formula for something we cannot even imagine. Any new model seems like pure fantasy and does not stand up to scrutiny by experimentalists. Humanity has reached an intellectual impasse of incredible and unprecedented proportions. In their attempts to find a way out, scientists create incredibly complex multidimensional constructs. String theory offers us a world of 11 dimensions, rolled up into invisible knots. But these beautiful mathematical symphonies are fundamentally impossible to test in practice. We have broken away from physical reality and are wandering through abstract philosophical labyrinths. Science is gradually turning into a form of complex belief in invisible entities. We have lost touch with the world we once set out to conquer. For many years, we took pride in our ability to penetrate the mysteries of deep space. We built gigantic particle accelerators and launched ultra-complex probes beyond the solar system. It seemed to us that just a couple more breakthrough discoveries would reveal all the secrets of the universe. But all of this turned out to be nothing more than child's play in the face of the grand mystery of existence. Nature has merely allowed us to approach the very edge of a vast and terrifying abyss. The true rules of the game are hidden from us behind an utterly impenetrable veil of ignorance. This is not merely a scientific problem that can be solved with the help of powerful computers. No artificial intelligence can produce a result based on erroneous input data. This is a fundamental limit of the capabilities of our biological human mind. Our thinking is strictly limited by three-dimensional space and a linear perception of time. Perhaps we are simply not designed to comprehend processes of such a cosmic scale. Our brains evolved for survival, not for comprehending multiverses. Realizing this bitter truth robs us of our former optimism and confidence in the future. And this conscious limit of knowledge is far more frightening than any physical threat. For the first time, we have encountered an insurmountable wall that cannot be breached by intellect or technology. We find ourselves like blind kittens in a world full of gigantic, invisible mechanisms. All we can do is passively watch the cosmic drama unfolding around us. And these mechanisms operate according to their own algorithms, which are alien to us. This global systemic breakdown is not happening only in incredibly distant and alien galaxies. It has the most direct and terrifying bearing on our own existence. Our solar system is subject to the same distorted laws that we observe at the edge. We are not separated from these terrifying anomalies by any protective physical barrier. Outer space is continuous and permeates every atom of our earthly world. Any distortion at the boundary will inevitably echo to our doorstep. Scientists have long mapped our cosmic neighborhood in detail. Our Milky Way galaxy is part of the so-called local group. Together with Andromeda and dozens of dwarf galaxies, we form a gravitationally bound system. But even this vast structure does not stand still in absolute emptiness. Our entire stellar family obediently follows the invisible currents of a gigantic ocean. We are part of much larger and more complex processes of matter movement. If the fabric of space is distorted there, these distortions will inevitably reach us. We are already moving along with our galaxy toward an unknown great attractor. This monstrous mass is pulling us toward it through millions of light-years of emptiness. Astrophysicists have determined that we belong to the giant Laniakea supercluster. Hundreds of thousands of galaxies are constantly flowing toward the single invisible center of this colossal structure. We are in a free and completely uncontrolled fall into the cosmic abyss. The situation is complicated by the fact that we are not only being pulled forward, but also pushed from behind. Researchers have discovered a gigantic and terrifying zone of emptiness behind our galaxy. This region, incredible in size, has been given the scientific name dipole repeller. The absence of mass in this zone creates an anti-gravity effect that further accelerates our movement. The forces of attraction and repulsion work in a terrifying tandem, propelling our world forward. We are flying through the universe at a speed of over 2 million kilometers per hour. We always thought of Earth as a safe and stable ship in the ocean of time. We carelessly made our earthly plans for thousands and millions of years into the future. People sincerely believed that the only threats could come from ourselves or a random asteroid. Space agencies spent enormous budgets on defense systems against flying rocks. But now we understand that our very environment is extremely unstable. The true danger lies in the very laws of physics that govern the world. In modern science, there is a frightening concept known as false vacuum decay. Physicists suggest that our space may be in an energetically unstable state. If a quantum transition to a true vacuum occurs somewhere in the universe, the consequences will be catastrophic. A bubble of a completely new reality will begin to expand in all directions at the speed of light. Inside this bubble, entirely different physical laws and particle masses will apply. It is fundamentally impossible to prevent or even detect the approach of such a global catastrophe. Changes in fundamental constants could occur right here at any moment. If the boundary of the universe were to rupture, a wave of new physical laws would engulf us instantly. We wouldn't even have time to realize what's happening before our reality completely transforms. The attraction between electrons and nuclei could suddenly vanish or intensify many times over. The atoms of our bodies could simply disintegrate or transform into something entirely different. The entire visible material world risks dissolving into the chaos of a new physics. This threat has no shape, color, or discernible vector of attack from the void. It cannot be tracked by radar or destroyed with powerful thermonuclear weapons. We are accustomed to fighting enemies that can be seen through a scope or a microscope. But here, our adversary is the very fabric of space and time itself. This is an existential danger emanating from the very structure of the space surrounding us. We are absolute and utterly helpless hostages of this cosmic lottery. The Big Rip scenario has become yet another nightmare for modern physicists and theorists. Dark energy does not merely push distant galaxies apart, it stretches space itself. If its density continues to grow, it will eventually overcome the gravitational forces within clusters. Star systems will begin to disintegrate, planets will break away from their stars and fly off into the darkness. In the very end, this force will tear molecules, atoms, and even subatomic particles to pieces. The universe will simply cease to exist in a series of endless microscopic ruptures. Astronomers are monitoring local changes in our sector of the galaxy with growing alarm. Precise measurements show that the tension in space is slowly increasing even in our immediate vicinity. Even small fluctuations in dark energy could tear our planetary system apart. Space is no longer a passive backdrop for the development of our human civilization. Now, it harshly dictates the conditions for our long-term survival. It has become an active and extremely unpredictable participant in our daily fate. Our attempts to colonize other planets now seem simply ridiculous and absurd. Relocating to Mars will in no way save us from a global change in the laws of physics. Building bases on the Moon will not protect us from the collapse of the false vacuum or a spatial rupture. We are trying to run from cabin to cabin on a massive sinking ocean liner. Humanity naively deludes itself with illusions of control over the situation, launching rockets into the sky. Our species is trapped inside a massive mechanism that has begun to behave unpredictably. For a long time, the anthropic principle lulled our scientific vigilance and caution. Scientists reasoned that the world is perfectly tuned precisely for the emergence of an intelligent observer. It seemed to us that the fine-tuning of the universe would last forever and remain unchanged. However, such reasoning completely ignores the dynamics and the incredible age of the cosmos. Ideal conditions may turn out to be nothing more than a brief weather anomaly in raging chaos. And this favorable era could end at any moment without warning. The entire history of humanity is merely a microscopic flash during a period of cosmic calm. We have simply been incredibly lucky to develop in a relatively peaceful local environment. Our ancestors gazed at the same unchanging stars for thousands of years. But this temporary comfort has fostered in us a false sense of security and superiority. We decided that we had managed to conquer nature and unravel its most profound secrets. We forgot how small and insignificant we are in the face of the true universe. Now, this terrifying realization is crashing down on us with all its merciless force. Pride in technological progress is giving way to a quiet, primal fear of the inevitable. We are sitting on a powder keg, the fuse of which extends beyond the edge of the observable world. And we have absolutely no idea whether that fuse is burning right now in the darkness. The signal of disaster will reach us along with the disaster itself at the speed of light. The anticipation of the unknown becomes the most grueling ordeal for the human psyche. The illusion of total control has been shattered by the harsh data from orbital telescopes. Our home planet no longer seems to us like a solid and reliable fortress. Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field will not protect us from a fundamental restructuring of the universe itself. All that remains for us is to cherish every moment of our fragile existence in this vast world. Humanity must set aside petty quarrels in the face of this grand mystery. It has turned into a fragile grain of sand, carried by a hurricane of monstrous and incomprehensible forces. In their attempts to explain what is happening, scientists are putting forward increasingly grim and frightening hypotheses. They are trying to find logic where the old laws of physics cease to apply. For many decades, the mathematical precision of the universe has suggested an artificial origin. One of the most frightening theories posits that our universe is someone's failed and abandoned experiment. The boundaries of our world are beginning to crumble due to a simple lack of external energy. It's as if someone simply turned off the system's power, and now the holograms are slowly fading away. If reality is truly digital, then we are observing signs of degradation in the physical medium of the simulation. The supercomputer running our world may be overheating or have run out of memory. In that case, the anomalies at the edge of the universe are software errors in the fading code. What we mistake for dark streams may simply be a glitch in the rendering process. The system can no longer maintain the perfect illusion for its unwitting inhabitants. We are seeing bare pixels and glitches at the edges of our grand computational matrix. This theory forces us to take a fresh look at the absence of signals from other civilizations. Perhaps they have already realized the truth and are simply waiting for the inevitable end of the game. If reality is a simulation, then its creators have clearly lost interest in us. They no longer release updates or fix critical errors in the physics of space. We are left to fend for ourselves in a world that is gradually disintegrating into fragments of information. And this process of software degradation is absolutely irreversible for us. We cannot reboot the system or contact higher-level technical support. All that remains is to watch the stars fade on the periphery and wait for the darkness to reach the center. But what if the cause of the anomalies lies not in an internal malfunction, but in an external influence? This thought leads us to an even more ominous concept of existence. Scientists are seriously considering scenarios where our universe is not alone. Another, no less terrifying theory speaks of a collision with predatory forms of the cosmos. In modern cosmology, there is the concept of a multiverse, where different worlds may border one another. Beyond the limits of our understanding, there may be universes that feed on foreign energy and matter. They latch onto our cosmos like giant parasites onto the body of a living organism. And those very dark currents are simply the process of draining our vital resources. This theft of energy occurs at such a fundamental level that we cannot resist it. We cannot see these colossal cosmic predators due to the limitations of our perception. Our brains have evolved for life in 3 dimensions, while they may utilize the 4th or 5th. They exist in additional dimensions that are inaccessible to our 3-dimensional instruments. We see only the terrible consequences of their destructive activity in our familiar layer of reality. Our universe is slowly dying, consumed by something infinitely ancient and hungry. Imagine a virus trying to comprehend the existence of the human whose cell it is devouring. That is roughly how we relate to these gigantic entities from beyond. This hypothesis completely robs us of any hope for a peaceful cosmic future. If there is life beyond our world, it is on the scale of macrocosmic gods. To them, we are not even microbes. We are simply an invisible part of their nutrient medium. Any contact with them would lead to the instantaneous erasure of our existence. Even if we manage to avoid an encounter with predators, time itself works against us. Nature has built a mechanism of destruction into the very structure of space. The constant increase in entropy will inevitably lead to the cosmos simply cooling down and dying. This brings us to the third, more natural, but no less terrifying hypothesis. It requires no external enemies or program glitches. The third version suggests that the very fabric of space-time has a finite shelf life. Any complex system in nature inevitably tends toward chaos and destruction. Anomalies at the boundaries are simply the process of natural aging and decay of matter. The laws of gravity and electromagnetism are beginning to fail due to the colossal fatigue of reality itself. The universe has passed its prime and is now rapidly sliding into chaotic decay. Physical constants are beginning to weaken, like the muscles of a deeply ill and elderly person. We are witnessing the curtain falling on a great cosmic era that is coming to an end. Galaxies are flying apart faster and faster until they disappear from each other's view. Space will become a dark, cold, and utterly empty place where no life is possible. What we are witnessing now is the death throes of everything around us. But on the scale of the cosmos, this is happening rapidly and with incredible cruelty toward life. We were born too late to see the world in its stable grandeur. Once, the cosmos was denser, hotter, and full of potential for creating new stars. But this phase of flourishing was short-lived compared to the infinity of darkness ahead. We live in the era of the dying embers of the great fire of creation. Scientists call this process the heat death or the Big Rip, depending on the details. But the essence remains grim. Space itself will cease to be suitable for the existence of matter. For a long time, we hoped we could colonize other worlds and escape the sun's demise. We made ambitious plans for millions of years into the future, relying on the stability of the laws of nature. But if the very foundation of reality is crumbling, there will simply be nowhere to run. No technology can save us from changes in the mass of the electron or the force of gravity. The death of the universe is the absolute end, one that cannot be prevented or survived in some kind of refuge. Any of the proposed theories leads to the same terrifying conclusion for humanity. Whether it's a glitch in the program, the jaws of a cosmic predator, or natural aging, we have become hostages to circumstances of such magnitude that our opinions or actions are of no consequence. Whichever of these terrifying theories turns out to be the cruel truth, the essence of what is happening remains absolutely unchanging and critically dangerous for all of humanity. We are in the midst of a process that leads to the complete and unconditional destruction of order. For many centuries, people believed that the universe was created specifically for them, like a cozy home. We sought destiny and a higher meaning in the movement of the stars and planets. But reality turned out to be far colder, more indifferent, and more dangerous than we could have imagined. Our hopes for eternal existence in this cosmos have been shattered by harsh observational facts. Now we understand just how fragile our well-being was in this boundless ocean of darkness. The universe turned out not to be a cradle for the mind, but a gigantic and extremely unstable trap. And the basic laws of nature simply do not provide a way out of this cosmic trap. We have finally reached the absolute limit of our cognitive and technological capabilities. For many years, we believed that the size of a telescope was directly proportional to the depth of our understanding of nature. Scientists sincerely hoped that new particle detectors would provide definitive answers to the universe's fundamental questions. The boundary of the observable universe turned out not to be a physical wall of stone or dense gas. It turned out to be an insurmountable limit of human understanding itself and our ability to think. What lies beyond it is simply incompatible with the biological structure of our brains. Our minds evolved to recognize simple threats on the African savanna millions of years ago. They handle throwing a spear, making fire, or inventing the wheel perfectly well. Neural connections form to ensure survival in the harsh but entirely comprehensible three-dimensional conditions of the planet. We have managed to stretch its capabilities somewhat to create quantum computers and space rockets. But it is fundamentally ill-suited for dealing with multidimensional infinities and alien physics. Our perception of time is rigidly tied to the cycle of day and night on our home planet, Earth. We stubbornly try to stretch our primitive earthly concepts to phenomena of a macrocosmic scale. We use terms like flow, gravity, or energy simply out of desperation. In reality, these words only vaguely describe the essence of the processes distorting the fabric of space. In fact, things are happening there for which there is not a single word in our language. We describe complex quantum mechanisms using the vocabulary of primitive savages. Trying to comprehend dark matter is like trying to explain the beauty of a sunset to someone blind from birth. This wall of incomprehension is far stronger than any physical barrier in outer space. If the boundary were simply a concentration of energy, we would have found a way to overcome it. We would have built incredible ships or created fantastic protective energy fields. The best engineers on the planet would surely have found a loophole through any force field. But we cannot build a ship capable of breaking through the wall of our own stupidity. Our neurobiology has become our most reliable and, at the same time, our most cruel prison. Every day, astrophysicists look at data that appears to be nothing but complete information noise. But they realize with horror that this is not noise, but an entirely different level of order. Signals from the edge of the observable universe carry an astonishingly complex mathematical structure. An order so complex that it appears to us as utterly unpredictable and hostile chaos. We simply cannot see the patterns that govern this grand cosmic dance. Our brain filters out this information as an error because it is incapable of processing it. Philosophers of science have long warned of the inevitable onset of this profound cognitive crisis. They called it the epistemological limit, beyond which science loses its explanatory power. Our instruments have become so sensitive that they have begun to detect the very boundary of the world's knowability. We collect terabytes of raw data, but we cannot piece them together into a coherent picture. Humanity finds itself in the position of an ant crawling across the microchip of a massive supercomputer. The ant feels the heat from the processor, but will never understand the algorithms of the running program. This realization of our own intellectual insignificance strikes hardest at human pride. For centuries, we have grown accustomed to considering ourselves the undisputed crown of creation and the most intelligent beings. Our science seemed to us the key to every door in this vast and mysterious edifice. Physics textbooks instilled in us a false confidence that we would soon unravel all the mysteries of the universe. But it turned out that we only have the keys to our tiny, dusty storage room. Behind the door of this storage room lies a palace of unimaginable proportions and terrifying architecture. Beyond that lies a vast world where our tools of understanding are utterly and completely useless. Mathematics, our most reliable and precise science, begins to yield meaningless and contradictory answers. Equations uncontrollably spawn infinities that physicists don't know what to do with. Gödel's famous incompleteness theorem suddenly takes on its darkest, most cosmic meaning. Any complex logical system contains statements that can neither be proven nor disproven. The light of our reason simply fades away in this all-consuming cosmic darkness. Some scientists pin great hopes on the creation of strong artificial intelligence. They believe that machine intelligence will be able to overcome these vexing biological barriers. But artificial intelligence is also trained on our human data and earthly logic. A machine may process numbers faster, but it operates within our concepts of space and time. If the foundation contains a critical error from the start, a powerful computer will simply reach a dead end faster. Neural networks break down just as easily when confronted with physics beyond the particle horizon. Perhaps we will never be able to take the next step in understanding this universe. Our species will remain forever confined within the limits of our biological and conceptual perception. The grand mysteries of the birth and death of galaxies will pass our tiny island of consciousness by. We will endlessly circle around the same unsolvable mysteries of the cosmos. Our best minds will spend their lives trying to describe the indescribable using outdated formulas. And the edge of the universe will forever mock our naive scientific ambition. We have reached the ceiling of our development not because of a lack of funding or poor telescopes. We have technologies capable of peering into the very beginning of time and the dawn of the first matter. We have hit the ceiling because we are merely human, limited by our nature. This is a bitter and deeply offensive truth that modern science refuses to accept. To acknowledge this would be to admit the utter futility of further global space exploration. Many academics would rather believe in absurd theories than admit their own intellectual inadequacy. For a long time, we were comforted by the anthropic principle and the belief in our unique role as observers. We believed that the universe only makes sense when someone is consciously observing it. But this narrative turned out to be steeped in monstrous human egocentrism and foolish pride. Cosmic currents and dark energy are utterly indifferent to the presence or absence of Earth-based telescopes. They reshape the geometry of space by their own rules, ignoring humanity's pitiful attempts to measure them. The cosmos has absolutely no need for our admiration or our endless scientific papers. We face a painful journey of accepting our new, humble role in the cosmos. Just as Copernicus once stripped the Earth of its status as the center of the rotation of all celestial spheres, we must now strip our minds of their status as the universal instrument of truth. Humanity will have to come to terms with the fact that there are questions for which we have no answers. This will require a colossal philosophical restructuring of our entire society and educational system. We must learn to live in a world that we are fundamentally incapable of comprehending. Each new generation of astronomers will only confirm the depth of our isolation. Looking up at the night sky, they will not see a scattering of mysteries awaiting their bold discoverer. They will contemplate a vast, insurmountable barrier, mocking our fragile biological species. This spectacle will inspire only awe and primal terror at the unfathomable scale. We will remain eternal spectators in the gallery of a theater where a play is performed in a completely unknown language. The plot of this great drama is hidden behind a thick curtain of physical and cognitive limitations. All our grand ambitions and scientific breakthroughs have turned out to be nothing more than an illusion of total control. We have simply learned to survive a little better on our small and fragile rocky planet. The true cosmic arena will forever remain closed to our understanding and direct intervention. We are incapable of understanding the universe because it was not created for our understanding. Space is not a nurturing school designed for the harmonious development of human intelligence. It exists on its own, in its terrifying grandeur and terrifying complexity. Everything we have ever known and sincerely believed in has turned out to be a dangerous illusion. Our stable and predictable reality is merely a thin film on the surface of a raging ocean. For many years, we lived comfortably on this film, enjoying our illusory global security. For millennia, humanity has built a cozy myth around itself about its own exceptionalism and importance. We studied the ripples on its surface and naively called it fundamental astrophysics. Our narrow horizons did not even allow us to suspect the existence of a colossal abyss right beneath our feet. Scientists of the past were absolutely certain of the immutability of the physical laws they had discovered. They sincerely believed that gravity and thermodynamics would operate eternally and without a single glitch. Classical science painted for us a picture of the universe as a perfectly tuned and reliable clockwork mechanism. But now we clearly see colossal, terrifying shadows rising from the dark depths. They make even the most pragmatic and skeptical space researchers shudder. Faith in the logic of the universe has suffered an irreparable crack in the face of this new data. These shadows distort the boundaries of our world and shatter all the rules we are accustomed to. They belong to forces that could destroy our entire reality with a single random movement. This is not merely a metaphor, but a harsh mathematical probability of the near cosmic future. Dark energy and hidden mass flows operate completely independent of our desires. Our Earth, our history, and all our achievements mean absolutely nothing. To these vast processes, we are not even specks of dust, but merely a tiny mathematical error. The realization of this fact evokes in people a profound and insurmountable existential anxiety. Philosophers and thinkers are now forced to completely rethink humanity's place in the new architecture of the universe. We can no longer gaze calmly at the night sky, full of bright and beautiful stars. It used to inspire awe in us and promise endless possibilities for future journeys. Science fiction writers dreamed of great galactic empires and the conquest of neighboring worlds. Now it looks like the bottomless maw of an unknown predator, ready to snap shut at any moment. Every luminous object out there, in the depths of space, obeys laws we do not understand. Distant quasars and pulsars live by rules that could change beyond recognition at any moment. And if these laws change or break down, we will simply be wiped out of existence. We have no chance of salvation or even of understanding our own demise. A vacuum collapse or a sudden surge of dark energy will leave us no time to realize the disaster. It will happen so quickly and on such a massive scale that we won't have time to feel anything. This hopelessness makes our current existence surprisingly fragile and frighteningly meaningless. Why are we building a civilization if the very foundation of the universe beneath us is frankly rotting and crumbling? We are wasting enormous resources on solving petty earthly problems and political conflicts. Why are we trying to preserve the planet's ecology if the universe itself is preparing for a global cataclysm? In the face of a cosmic catastrophe, all our ambitious initiatives seem simply ridiculous. These terrifying questions are increasingly being raised in closed-door discussions among the world's leading thinkers. Such thoughts are giving rise to a new direction in science that could be called cosmic nihilism. Researchers are beginning to understand that any struggle for survival makes sense only under stable conditions. But cosmology tells us directly that absolute stability does not exist in nature. The universe is full of hostile environments and phenomena capable of sterilizing entire galaxies in a fraction of a second. Supernova explosions or gamma-ray bursts constantly remind us of the brutal nature of the surrounding space. And we are absolutely powerless to oppose this blind and destructive force. We find ourselves in the position of passengers on a plane whose engines are failing mid-flight. The passengers may continue to argue about politics or enjoy the meal served to them. Most people on Earth have no idea that a fundamental crisis in physics is looming. They are absorbed in their daily routines and illusory plans for the distant future. But the pilots in the cockpit already know full well that the crash is completely and utterly inevitable. Scientists are now playing the role of those very pilots, observing the failure of the systems. Astrophysicists and mathematicians were the first to realize the full scale of the catastrophe looming over us. Every day, they analyze gigabytes of data from the latest orbital telescopes and ultra-sensitive detectors. They see red warning signals coming from all corners of the observable universe. The instruments are screaming about critical failures in gravity, thermodynamics, and quantum physics, but they can do nothing but silently watch the end approach. They have no controls to steer this enormous, broken cosmic machine. The situation is complicated by the fact that we cannot even accurately calculate the time remaining until the presumed finale. The processes of destruction could take billions of years, or they could end as early as tomorrow morning. The observed dark streams and anomalies in the cosmic microwave background defy precise prediction. The scientific world has split into camps, each offering its own theories of the universe's demise. But none of these mathematical models gives us hope for a happy escape. We are simply locked in a massive laboratory where the experiment has clearly spiraled out of control. The weight of this knowledge weighs incredibly heavily on the minds of those at the forefront of modern science. Many outstanding physicists sink into deep depression upon realizing their own helplessness. They dedicated their lives to the search for truth, and the truth turned out to be a death sentence for everyone. Their graphs and formulas have become a detailed chronicle of the impending absolute apocalypse. Sharing such news with the general public is becoming increasingly difficult and morally burdensome. No one wants to take responsibility for causing global panic and shattering people's last hopes. All that remains for us is to accept our utter helplessness in the face of the abyss. Attempts to fight the inevitable will only lead to the senseless waste of our last resources. We have no control over our fate on this vast and merciless cosmic scale. The only reasonable way out is the philosophical acceptance of our humble place within this complex structure. Our task now is simply to live out the unpredictable time allotted to us with dignity, and to hope that the illusion of a safe reality will hold out for at least a few more generations. Humanity will have to learn to live with this constant, oppressive backdrop of existential horror. We need to find new meaning in a world where the final outcome of history is predetermined. Art, culture, and love will be our only painkillers in this inevitable process. They will help brighten the wait for the end and preserve the precious remnants of our humanity. It is important not to descend into complete madness from the realization that only emptiness awaits us all. This is the most difficult psychological challenge our species has ever faced. Previous religious and philosophical doctrines lose their power in the face of such discoveries. They were created for a cozy earthly world, not for a disintegrating alien reality. This is a new stage of our collective maturity, devoid of any naive, childish hopes. We have finally grown up and seen just how terrifying this real world around us is. Humanity must cast off the rose-colored glasses of anthropocentrism and look the truth straight in the eye, even if this harsh truth proves utterly devastating to our fragile minds. For generations, we have sought answers, solace, and a friendly alien intelligence in the starry sky. We wanted to believe that we are an important part of some grand divine plan. But the data from merciless instruments and cold mathematics have forever shattered this beautiful fairy tale. Space feels neither hatred nor love, nor the slightest compassion toward us. Reality turned out to be nothing like the caring mother we imagined it to be. It is cold, alien, and utterly indifferent to our fragile human existence. Ultimately, all these frightening anomalies lead us to one crucial conclusion. We know absolutely nothing about how the vast universe is actually structured. We can safely throw all our thick physics and astronomy textbooks into the fire. They describe only an illusory little world that we ourselves have invented. Modern cosmology has reached a dead end in the face of these incredible new facts. We thought we were on the very threshold of the greatest discoveries and the unraveling of all mysteries. It seemed to us that just a couple more formulas and we would have a theory of everything. Many outstanding minds have devoted their lives to the search for a single equation of the universe. But the edge of the universe has cruelly mocked our incredible intellectual arrogance. It has clearly shown that we haven't even begun to understand the true nature of things. For decades, astrophysicists built a coherent standard model to describe all matter. We rejoiced at the discovery of the Higgs boson and considered it the final triumph of our science. However, it turned out that visible matter makes up a paltry fraction of the total mass of the cosmos. The rest is hidden in the darkness of hypothetical dark entities of completely unprecedented power. This colossal gap in our knowledge devalues all our previous scientific victories. What we see through telescopes are not answers, but even more complex questions. If the boundary doesn't work the way we thought it did, then we know nothing. We do not know where we came from, where we are going, or why any of this matters. Any attempt to explain the beginning of time runs up against the mathematical paradoxes of the Big Bang. Our picture of the world has turned out to be nothing more than a beautiful but utterly incorrect child's drawing, and perhaps we will never be able to comprehend this terrifying universal truth. Our lot is to gaze eternally into the darkness and shudder at shadows we cannot understand. The cosmos promises us no answers. It offers only an endless sense of mounting anxiety. We are left to our own devices in this gigantic abyss, utterly incomprehensible to us. The absence of signals from other civilizations only intensifies this oppressive sense of absolute loneliness. In light of new data, the famous Fermi paradox takes on a rather ominous tone. The silence of the cosmos may not be a coincidence or a result of our technological backwardness at all. It is quite possible that other civilizations have already faced the collapse of fundamental physical laws, or they are deliberately hiding from the horrors that lurk beyond the limits of visibility. The dark forest hypothesis of the universe turned out not to be the invention of science fiction writers, but a cruel rule of survival. There is no longer any certainty about tomorrow or the reliability of the laws of physics. Reality could collapse right here and now, leaving no trace of us behind. And the scariest thing is that we wouldn't even understand exactly why it happened. Vacuum energy could instantly rearrange every atom in our solar system. We would vanish just as foolishly and in complete ignorance as we came into being. We sought out fellow sentient beings, but now we're afraid to attract anyone's attention. Sending radio signals to distant stars now seems like an act of pure suicide. We wanted to explore other worlds, but now we are afraid to even look beyond the horizon. Our great human curiosity has been replaced by a primal and paralyzing fear of the unknown. And this fear is entirely justified given our total cosmic blindness. Look once more at the endless night sky, studded with billions of twinkling stars. It is no longer a map for humanity's future grand space voyages. It is a grand and ominous mystery that will never allow us to unravel it. Behind every beautiful constellation lies the threat of gravitational or quantum collapse. It is a wall of incomprehension that weighs upon us with its unimaginable cold grandeur. And the more we look at it, the less meaning remains in it. The entire philosophical foundation of humanity was built on the idea of steady progress and boundless knowledge. We believed that reason was capable of conquering matter and subjugating nature itself. But cruel reality has crushed these naive humanistic ideals into fine dust. We will have to completely rethink the value of life in a world devoid of fundamental meaning. We remain alone on our tiny planet, surrounded by the terrifying chaos of alien forces. Our atmosphere seems a laughable defense against the looming macrocosmic cataclysms. We are forced to admit our complete and final defeat in the face of the true universe. No earthly technology will save us from our fundamental ignorance. Our science has retreated in fear of what it cannot even describe. We thought we understood the boundaries of our world, but this world has turned out to be infinitely terrifying. Astronomers encounter data daily that refutes theories at the edges of the cosmos. Supermassive black holes at the dawn of time shatter all models of early galaxy formation. We see objects that simply could not have formed in the time the universe has existed. These chronological paradoxes clearly indicate the profound inaccuracy of our basic calculations. Scientists are forced to hide their confusion behind complex and incomprehensible mathematical abstractions. Conferences on cosmology increasingly resemble gatherings of people who have lost all hope. The planet's intellectual elite has found itself trapped by its own outdated paradigms. To publicly acknowledge this global failure would mean destroying the authority of all modern science. Therefore, the academic world continues to pretend that the situation is under control. If things are not as we expected, then we have absolutely no idea what lies beyond. Beyond the edge of the observable void, storms from entirely different dimensions may be raging. And, by all accounts, we would be better off never finding out. Sometimes excessive curiosity proves fatal for those too weak to face the truth. Our civilization must learn the art of humility in the face of the overwhelming power of the universe. Perhaps it is precisely the limitations of our vision that ensure our peaceful sleep. If we were to suddenly see the true scale of the threat, humanity would simply go mad. Our psyche could not bear the realization of what a fragile cage we are locked in. Nature has mercifully placed a thick blindfold over us, shielding us from the horror of the universe. Ignorance becomes our only and most valuable shield against cosmic madness.